spelled a little differently, and then you spell it wrong, I mean, like,
That should be a clue.
yeah, that should be a clue to like say blank.
And this firearm recovered in the car.
Firearm is recovered at the feet
That's
of,
what I'm trying to be careful not to
Yeah.
shoot the danger,
This
to
guy.
shoot my numbers and.
Because if we don't put the brake on it now, they're going to.
Yeah.
let me make sure that everybody else got it, 'cause I can't imagine anybody else would be on this.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised.
Well, consider what I heard in the meeting this morning, this isn't just going on with us, we're probably leading with it, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty, I'm so excited about this.
I'm actually kind of hesitant to describe the way to get it.
Because you
Right.
have this
You
right.
know, I mean, to a certain degree, you know, I thought about that, but at the end of the day, we're dealing with 18 to 20-year-olds. So if they're living at home, and you happen to walk in Johnny's room, and he's got, you know, heat or something like that in his room with a toothbrush next to it, maybe you need to like look at Johnny's stuff and determine whether or not your kid's up to no good. You know? So yeah, but I actually did think about that, but I think for the public's knowledge, they need to see stuff like that, because it's almost like, you know, you walk through and you see, you know, those canisters of marijuana, you see that in your kid's room, and maybe at first glance you think, oh, is that gum? Because they're selling, you know,
Yeah.
spearmint stuff like that, it looks like that, you know, and you may, oh, that's gum, when in fact it's actually marijuana. So, how the hell did they get the key? The information that is coming to us through investigation is that they may have been robbing mail carriers in the city. I don't know how factual that is, but that's the information that is coming to light for us. That mail carriers may have been robbed, they take the mail key, and now they use it to do this.
So, would that key open any box in the nation? I mean, does
that I don't
Delco
know.
have different
That I
keys
don't
than Philly
know.
County does?
This key came from the southwest area of Philadelphia. And we
I
know
just
that.
wonder if it would work in bucks, that's what I
Yes, it
think.
makes
That I don't know, but it came from southwest Philadelphia area, and that we know by the serial number that's on the key.
Postal Inspector Service should probably be able to tell you that.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
yeah.
But somebody put a lot of thought into this.
That's a very complex
I was gonna say, not bad on the catch either, you know?
Yeah.
6 and 10.
This is way over my head.
Yeah.
We should all be happy.
Yep. Thanks. All right, Paul.
Well, apparently, I don't know if you're here, but he said his whole shit was in one of these kids' shoes.
Yeah, all in the shoe. Yeah, he had the checks on one side. He had the checks on.
I was gonna say, big
he had the
feet.
checks on one side. He was much shorter when we took it out, but
Yeah.
he had the checks on one side and the debit cards on the other. And I don't know if you were here for this, but the debit cards, these are people that willingly participated in an Instagram ad for making easy money, who willingly handed over their debit card with their password for the guys to deposit checks and cash.
Well, what do you say about a fool and his money, you know?
But
I can't think
but
of a
they,
soul.
but they have no clue that we're gonna be knocking at the door.
How do you, golly, that's some line you must have to walk up to somebody's door and say, look, I've got a deal for you, I'm just gonna need your
You know,
credit card, your PIN number."
it's like flim-flams. In my career, I've seen individuals that will walk up to somebody on the street and they'll be like, you know, I just found, I think it's like $25,000. You know, but I don't, you know, will you hold it and I'll split it with you, but to show good faith, will you put 5,000 in and I'll put 5,000 in and we'll divide it, and you know, but you hold the money so you know I'm being legit, and they'll go to the bank with the guy, withdraw $5,000, put it in the handkerchief, all right? The guy will then switch the handkerchief with him, and he says, all right, go home, just conceal it, let's give it a couple hours, make sure nobody reported it, and then put the greed and the curiosity gets them, they get home and they open it up and it's not a paper.
That's the only way that these things work, is
Yeah,
greed.
greed.
Yeah.
Human greed.
Greed, human greed.
Anyway, I mean, we had Zoom calls yesterday with a number of national outfits about this. Any way to know how many people victimized here might or might not have been seniors? Seniors hypothetically might be more than willing to go for a credit card thing, especially
Most of the debit cards, at least the individuals we've interviewed so far, are young.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly
So that
right.
would be agreed half.
Yeah, and a bunch of them, Jay, you can chime in here when you want it, that basically said, we knew there was something fishy, but we thought we could make a quick buck, and here's my debit card.
Is there anything, does the act punish them? They're not on, are they guilty of anything other than being stupid?
Well, I'll be honest with you, there are some individuals that there's no criminal intent, all right, you can tell when you're talking to them.
Mhm.
And then there's others that, yeah, I know, all right, but then, here's the thing, they're not getting their cards back.
They're actually victims of that.
Yeah, they're not getting their cards back, all right, they're not getting anything as a result, so they're actually now victims of identity theft. But they've almost contributed to themselves being a victim by, like, if I can't make that clear enough, if I just met you and I say, hey, can I cash a check? And you're like, oh yeah, I cash a check. Yeah, but can I have your debit card, your PIN, you go do it? All right, you better slap me, all right? Because that's just absurd. It just,
Conversations that I never have, but if I do, they stop right on, can I cash a check? Have at it, man.
yeah,
Right.
Well, who's your institution? Go get 'em.
yeah. It's just,
Why are you talking to me?
And again, there might be some business entrepreneurs out there that are 18, 19, 20 years old, but if my son, and again, he's older, but if my son at 18 came to me and said, Dad, can you cash a $7,000 check for me? I'd be like, where'd you get $7,000 at, AJ? So it's, it's just, it's sad. And like I said, these people here don't even know that a check's missing. Little Johnny may have not gotten his birthday present, and you call up, you forgot Johnny's birthday. It got lost in the mail. I'll send another one. Until later on, all right, they get their bank statement and they're out $7,000 in their checking account if it's in there.
Does the heat and the toothbrush really do a good enough job to pass muster?
These are wash checks.
What was washed again? The signature or they're just completely washed?
These are checks that are completely washed, so everything that you see blood in there. All right, but that one's completely clean.
Yeah, it looks good.
That one's clean.
Remind me Christmas.
But it's this is 80 degrees at that time. This heat shit. Yeah.
Right, it's
Good morning. I'm Chief Anthony Paparo of the Yeadon Police Department, and we're here today. I have the District Attorney with me, Jack Stolzheimer. I also have Detectives Jay Houghton and Leah Sesniak. Detective Ferdy Ingram is not present, but he was also instrumental in this case. This is I'm going to call it a major crime ring. Right now it involves at least 4 individuals, 3 that we have in custody, 1 that we currently have a warrant for. This crime, I don't know if it began in February, but it first came to the attention of the Yeadon Police Department in February of this year. We received information from a resident that they had a check that was being sent for a mortgage payment that had been apparently sent to another location and cashed for around $2,500. The individual made a fraud report, and we began an investigation into the fraud. Later on, additional cases started to trickle in to Yeadon Police Department involving check fraud. Currently, as of to date, we've identified 22 incidents of check fraud that occurred to Yeadon residents, one of which actually works for Yeadon Borough. To give you an idea of what the suspects were doing, they would take this.
Chief, if you don't mind holding the mic.
You want me to stay back here?
Yeah.
They would buy this stuff called heat. It's a gas line antifreeze, and they would use this along with toothbrushes to wash checks. And when I say wash checks, they would take, you send a birthday check to little Johnny for $25. They take that check, they wash off everything that you've written on the check, and then they write in their own amount, their own paid to the order of, and they sign your name, and then they go and they get it cashed. The really crazy part about this is their enterprise involved individuals on Instagram who responded to ads that they posted on a way to make easy money. So individuals on Instagram would contact them, and then as a result, individuals would respond to the Instagram post, and then the suspects would meet the individuals at a store or a parking lot, a McDonald's, wherever, and they would hand over their debit card with their PIN number, their information, sometimes their social security number, to these suspects, and willingly allow them to deposit the check into their account so that it can then be withdrawn via the debit card. Greed is the key word here. The individuals here are all younger, in their 20s. The suspects, the youngest is 18, the oldest is 21. But they would, the individuals not involved in the criminal enterprise itself and the washing of the checks would willingly hand over their debit cards. Yesterday, let me step back a little bit. Back in the beginning of June, we began surveillances of various locations. We've also been working with the U.S. Postal Inspectors and other law enforcement agencies who've also experienced this problem, as this group was apparently hitting mailboxes in the Philadelphia, Delaware County, Montgomery, and Chester County region. They would take the checks out of the mail, or they would basically collect all of the mail. And how we know that is we captured the crew on video on June the 1st, pulling up to the location at Church and Whitby, where they entered a mailbox. Initially, we weren't sure how they got into the mailbox. We thought they might have been phishing the mailbox, but then we later developed information that this group may have been involved in robbing postal workers of keys that actually open up U.S. postal boxes. So as a result, in this video, you can see an individual exit a vehicle that we were looking for, get out of the vehicle, walk up to the mailbox, unlock it, remove the white mailbox that's inside the blue mailbox, run back to the car, dump it in the back seat, and then return the white box to the mailbox and lock it up, and they drove away all in under probably 30 seconds. After which time they then do their thing with the checks. In front of you on the table, as a result of a vehicle stop yesterday, because as a result of getting that video from surveillance cameras in the area, we had a tag for an individual that lived in the area of Fallcroft. We've been looking for that vehicle and the suspect since then. Yesterday, these individuals who were trying to be kind-hearted were taking a fellow friend to a court hearing, and luck would have it they decided to drive to the old courthouse in Yeadon, which is now closed, and happened to drive by two detectives who were out looking for this car, recognized the car, and a car stop was effected on the vehicle. We took 4 suspects into custody yesterday. 3 of them are currently in custody, awaiting arraignment on check fraud, criminal conspiracy, theft, receiving stolen property, and various other violations, including a firearm, as the passenger, the front seat passenger in the vehicle, had a firearm in a bag at his feet when he was stopped by police. One of the positive things I want to throw out there in this is the 4th suspect was released. And the reason he was released is detectives did a very nice job in verifying information that was supplied by this individual that proved that he could not have been involved in any of the incidents that we're talking about. So I applaud them for not just jumping the gun and charging a guy up and actually doing due diligence on the investigation to clear a guy. And that's part of our job too, to make sure that we have the right people in custody. One of the suspects lost a little bit of height after he was brought in. He was wearing a pair of sneakers, and pursuant to our policies, he's searched and his sneakers are removed to make sure there's no weapons concealed and so forth. And this guy had 59 checks in his shoe on one side and 19 of these debit cards in his shoe on the other. These 19 people don't even know that we're going to be knocking at their door later. So if you happen to respond to an Instagram post to make easy money and you turned over your debit card to a guy you don't know along with your PIN number, we know who you are by your name. We have your account number. We're going to be able to know who you are and where you live, just like he does. And we will be knocking at your door to determine what was going on there when you handed over your card. Come see us before that, is my admonition to you. Number 2, the individuals on the 59 checks that are present here, these individuals don't even know they're a victim yet. They may have gotten a notice from a family member or a mortgage company or a utility company that their check was not received, which creates all kinds of headaches for people there with their credit and their paying their bills and everything else. They don't even know that their checks are sitting here in front of me. We will be contacting you because you are a victim of this crime. The suspect also had concealed in his shoe, I believe it's 5 checks that were already washed, that he obviously was going to at some point rewrite them and put a monetary value of what he wanted. Most of the checks were written for a minimum of about $2,500. The largest one was a little over $7,000. And at this point, it's still an ongoing investigation, and there's no doubt in my mind that there will be other arrests related to this, as it encompasses a 4-county regional area. Any questions?
Did you happen to look through their phones? I'm just curious if they took pictures.
Good question about matching the signature. They didn't care about matching the signature. When they washed the check, and again, I guess they're cognizant of the fact that they don't wash the check and the handwriting's different between the pay to the order line and the signature. They realize that may create questions. But whoever was deciding to write the checks, he doesn't know how to spell certain individuals' names, so the name's on the check in the upper left-hand corner. He actually wrote the name wrong when he signed it to have it cashed. So here's another kind of a hint and warning I want to put out to the banking system. When you have individuals that are checking these checks, because I know a lot of stuff's automated, and I'm not a bank guy, maybe I'm wrong here, but at some point somebody's got to look at it, especially if it's being deposited in an ATM, which all of these were. Look at the check, look it over, make sure it looks right. Even though the checks were washed, some of them are very, very clean. You would think it came right out of a checkbook and hadn't even been written on. But some of them, you can see faint writing still left in it, because depending on what kind of pen or instrument they were using to sign it, all of the ink's not coming out. So be cognizant of that. I debated on whether or not to show how they were washing stuff, all right, because, I don't want, the next thing to, everybody throwing TikTok videos up and Instagram videos up that they're, taking this stuff and they're washing checks and showing their friends that they can take their $15 birthday check and turn it into $1 million. But I think the information is important for parents. The guys involved in this are early teens and early 20s. Most of these guys are still living at home. So you happen to be walking into, Johnny's room and you see this sitting on his bureau. Maybe you need to talk to him about, like, why does he have, gasoline antifreeze in his room? So that's why I gave that information out. But the phones, we have seized the phones. We are required under Pennsylvania law to get a search warrant to go through them. So we are in the process of drafting search warrants for the phones to locate various things. I can tell you that on their Instagram posts, at least one of these guys, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, one of these guys liked to flaunt how much money he had and all the different things that he had. These guys were buying Louis Vuitton and other things of high value, taking trips to Florida. They were living life large. We estimate just with the Yeadon victims, somewhere over $125,000 in cash has been stolen. And again, we don't, at this point, I'm hoping whoever's watching this, if you have found that your bank account is missing money and you weren't sure what was going on, if you mailed it into a post office box, reach out to us so we can see whether or not you're related to this crime or not. So it's important to report that stuff to the police.
Chief, you said you all caught four guys in a car yesterday and one had been released. I just want to make sure that when I show these four fellows over here exactly who they are and what charges they're facing.
Sure.
I'm assuming that the one that walked or that you cleared is not among them.
He's not on,
Right.
on this list. On the, do you want me to hold this, sir?
Sure, thanks. Some police chiefs will sing. Okay?
Yeah. All right. This gentleman here, Mr. Brown, all right, we currently have an active warrant for him. He was not in the vehicle yesterday. We are currently looking for him. He is a co-conspirator in this enterprise. We have no idea currently where he resides, but there is an active warrant for him at this moment while we speak. This subject here, as I hear Williams, was the front seat passenger, and he was a subject who had the firearm at his feet in a bag. Thankfully, he complied with all commands. This subject here, Nao Tsegay, was the operator of the vehicle. He and/or this subject, Rahon Freeman, both of them, this picture I would not consider a current picture. Both of them have kind of like dreadlock type hairstyles. One of these two is the one that got out of the vehicle in the one video and retrieved the mail. Go ahead.
Which one had all the paperwork in his shoes?
It's Segay, right? Yeah, this subject here, who was the driver.
And Chief, have you all been able to trace the weapon at all?
No, right now it's no record found on it. We will have ATF involved to try and determine where the point of origin was for the weapon. But at this point, it's not reported stolen. The serial number is still intact. So we still have a liable. Like I said, this is one of those investigations where it's not closed. This is probably going to go on for quite a period of time, only because, again, we have 19 individuals to go say hello to, and then we have 59 other individuals that we need to let them know that they were a victim of theft.
You said you saw this going on in all the ring counties too, as well as in Philadelphia. Do you see this as being a ring or a tactic used by multiple people? Like, hey, you can do this with the heat, and maybe run it this way or that way.
Right.
There are familiar games that people run out there that you and I don't have to know one another to know how to do it, and maybe do it separately from one another. Or is there maybe a ring?
I'm leaning towards the fact that this is a ring, because this is very an elaborate scheme. This is not something on a whim. Most of the check fraud cases that I've seen in my career are individuals that will get a check, they'll wash it, and it's usually a business check, usually from like a business, which takes a little bit longer to track down versus me sending you a birthday present check. So a business check, it could wind up being washed, cashed somewhere. It's easier for an individual to go in with a fake ID that they've created on their own to go into a bank and cash a business check, especially if they're going to a bank that's listed on the check issuer from the business. It's easier to do that. That's what I've seen predominantly in my career. These type of schemes, to where they're reaching out, and because they're, to a certain degree, they're legitimately depositing a check because they're using a real debit card. They're not roosing this victim, and I guess I'll call them victim because at the end of the day, they're victims of identity fraud, but almost willingly. They should know better. But this is very elaborate. This goes a little bit beyond the scope of individuals saying, "Hey, let's go wash checks." This is very elaborate. This is an elaborate scheme that they have going here.
And just to be clear about how the scheme works, they steal the checks, they wash them, they say, "Hey, on Instagram, give me your debit card, I'll deposit this check, I'll take, the amount out and give you some or leave some."
That's the impression that the people get. That okay, I have a $6,000 check. I'm going to deposit it into your bank account, and I'm going to withdraw $5,500. And the idea that you're going to make $500 to have some guy, cash your check for you, greed overtakes, especially a younger individual. Because we've had at least 2 individuals that were younger that came in with their parents, and their parents probably wanted to slap them silly. But at the end of the day, they were like, we thought something was fishy, but we still thought we were going to make some money.
I understand. I mean, the charges may be added, and there's a lot of water to go under the bridge between here and there. But assuming these guys are convicted on the charges that you hit them with, what are they looking at?
Each check written over $2,000 is a felony, and as a result, technically, all right, there's 22 counts right now. Some of the victims have more than one check. So off the top of my head, let's just use what's in front of us on the table. 59 counts of check fraud. All right. 19 counts of identity theft.
And as the chief said, this is an ongoing investigation.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
A lot of other
Yeah,
things that-
yeah, and I'll let
Sure.
go ahead, jump in there.
I'm Jack Stolstein, the district attorney, and I just wanted to come out here and just congratulate Yeadon PD. You guys are small but mighty, and this is an amazing amount of detective work that went into this case. This is unbelievable for a municipal police department to crack a ring like this the way you've done it. And it wasn't just a lucky stop yesterday. It was months of hard detective work that these guys have put in to get these guys off the street. This is an elaborate scheme to steal money from innocent people who don't even know they're stolen from. One of the individuals who I see an envelope that was intercepted from is a friend of mine. And I just texted him, so he'll be in contact with you because they stole or attempted to steal from him. This is what we're so proud of Yeadon Police for having done this. I think everyone in the region has to congratulate them because this probably was an elaborate scheme that was more than just Delaware County. I think you saved a lot of people, a lot of anxiety as this continued to go forward. We are looking forward to bringing charges. We're looking forward to finishing the conversation, or the investigation, excuse me, and bringing the appropriate charges. But I just want to, again, congratulate these detectives. This is just amazing, old-fashioned police work, and you can see the benefit of that, and that's why we need great police officers in Yeadon, in Delaware County, and throughout the United States.
It might be a little premature to guess, but are we talking potentially hundreds of victims when this thing sort of has an unfold?
My opinion, easy. Again, because this is just 22 in Yeadon that we know of right now. All right, so 22 plus the 59, you're already almost at 100 people.
And the weed, like the gun, was riding along with them?
It was riding along, yeah. And Jack makes a great point about good police investigative work, because here's what you need to understand about this case, which makes it so painstakingly difficult to solve. In this case, these individuals, especially with the pandemic going on, everybody's wearing a mask, all right? So now these individuals are going up to the ATM and using valid ATM cards. They're not cloned, they're not stolen, so they're using valid ATM cards. They're putting it in the machine, they're depositing the check. Depending on how the bank works, you can withdraw so much money from after you deposit the check. So they're not going into the bank showing their faces, where there's more and better video. We're getting the grainy, nighttime, crappy video that you get at the ATMs that around here when you're doing your thing. So they're limiting their exposure to being detected, because now because with check fraud, what we usually do is we look at it and we say, okay, they deposited it into an account. All right, well, if they deposited in an account, it's probably a fraud account. They had to go into the bank. They had to open up the account. Let's go to the bank. We hit the account. They're going to have video of the person coming in. We're going to have something we can put out to police agencies to say, do you recognize this guy, blah, blah, blah. But in this case, all right, everything's legit. So we're starting from a legitimate account, and now we got to try and work backwards. So what solved this was just legwork after legwork after legwork, surveillance, running around and finding, okay, who's got a Ring camera sitting somewhere? Who's got another camera sitting somewhere? Who's got this sitting somewhere? And we caught a break. And these two guys, who I was pretty much running into the ground, basically, watched hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of video until they're like, oh, what's going on here? These two guys pull up, one guy gets out, and it's like, okay, home run. Because we actually had a car before this, if I'm recalling correctly. We had a van come up and do it beforehand. But the video, it must have been raining or overcast or something, we couldn't get the tag. So we just had a grainy video of a van. And not enough for us to really, we can't stop every dark colored van that we see. We gotta have a little bit more than that. So continue to watch video. Next thing you know, this car shows up and it's a nice sunny day in the morning as the sun's coming up, because I think it was like 5:30 in the morning, and the tag's clearly visible, and now we got a home run. We got a location to start with.
You've been through this, Chief, so forgive me. I just want to be crystal clear. The
Sure.
car you pulled over yesterday and found these individuals, and it's the same car that pulled up to the mailbox.
Yep.
And the guys got out,
Yep.
took the mail.
Yeah.
And that's the same car.
Yeah, yesterday this car drives by detectives. We had this tag we were looking for, and it came from
Wow.
this video where they pulled up, and you can clearly see the tag, and one of the individuals jumps out, runs over to the mailbox, unlocks it, takes the mail in, and I have that video downstairs I can show you guys.
Now that all by itself is what? That's a felony.
That's a crime in and of itself, taking mail out of the, yep.
What is that crime?
That's a federal felony, something. I'm not a federal guy, so I don't want to speak for.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
It's been a long time.
but the theft of U.S. mail is considered a felony.
So are the postal police involved?
Yeah, we have the postal inspectors. They are involved in this investigation, and again, but at the end of the day, it was these guys doing the work.
Of course, and they don't know about it without your work at all. But in addition to what you all are charging them with, they may face federal charges as well.
They possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to leave that to the DA's office, because the DA's office will make the final determination of whether or not, in conjunction with the U.S. Attorney's Office, whether or not it's going to become a federal indictment type case, or whether or not it would stay local in Delaware County.
Sure. It certainly it qualifies for federal prosecution if it's warranted, but I think, the Chief's point earlier about this being such a sophisticated operation, it may be something that is part of something even larger. I don't think that these guys thought of this themselves. No. It's just my guess. So I think the fact that we will continue to find the appropriate mechanism to hold these guys and bring them to justice will be certainly a consideration. But again, these guys, you can't say enough about the work that these two detectives have done on this case, months, weeks. You know, it's not like TV where it all happens in 30 minutes and by the end of it you've got the bad guy. They have worked for months on this case, and everybody in Yeadon and everybody in this region ought to be very thankful. You know, these guys are off the street.
And the one last thing I'll throw out for those watching and you know, later on, there's a social media app out there called Nextdoor. I use it a lot here in Yeadon. There are other police agencies, including state police, that are on it. They put out a lot of tips. They put out a lot of information. I put this information out to the public early in February when we started getting the information about the check stuff. Because initially, like I said, we weren't sure whether or not it was being taken by a postal employee, to be honest with you. So we asked people to avoid using that mailbox. So I would suggest people go on, take advantage of the means out there to get information to avoid becoming a victim. And if if somebody did not get a check, check your accounts. Especially if you have parents that are older. All right, reach out to them. All right, if they normally would send you a check for your birthday, your anniversary, or whatever, and you didn't get something this year, and they normally do, reach out to them. And because again, remember, this affected us, Upper Darby, Lansdowne, Lower Merion, places in Chester County, places in Philadelphia County. Reach out to them because they may be missing money out of their accounts and not even realize it because they're just not adept at following their statements. So the potential for other victims out there is exactly, that's a great word, huge. That's what I'm saying. This is just the tip of the iceberg in my opinion.
One shoe full.
Yeah, exactly right. Any other questions?
While we're talking, you hadn't had an opportunity to interrogate these guys, man. I don't know, maybe the lawyers up, maybe you have spoken with them. Any of them give you any indication, any of them confess? Give you any indication that they've been doing this for 2 years, maybe? I mean,
no.
This is the tip of the iceberg.
No. I will tell you that all of them refuse to speak. All of them refuse to speak. One almost threw up when he saw a video, but all of them refuse to speak. But again, it's it's a catch me if you can thing. But the guy that got all the stuff in his shoe, I think you're pretty much caught, my friend.
Do you know if they have attorneys?
At this point, no, not yet. We're waiting to take them to be arraigned. So they're still in the building. They'll be arraigned. They'll be leaving here shortly to be arraigned. Yeah.
Be arraigned today?
Yeah.
Are they gonna just, so we can post up outside, they're gonna come out the sidewalk?
When's that gonna be?
Probably next half hour, minimum, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, not long.
All right.
Not long. All right. You guys good? Do you want to get the video downstairs?
Yeah,